Good old-fashioned folk music show. I'm Lorraine Dechter, your host, with a very special guest, Ed Heffelfinger from Redding, California. And most recently, he's been over in Nashville quite a bit. Welcome, Ed.
Hi, how you doing? Good afternoon.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Now, Ed has given us a special treat. All of you in Northern California who love Townes VanZandt, we have quite a wonderful collection here of music and some stories, too.
You bet. I've been working on a long-form video about Townes VanZandt for the last 8 months or so. And I just got back from Nashville, went there to the Ryman Auditorium on March 8th for Townes Fest. It was a tribute to Townes VanZandt. It was an awesome event.
Now, when you first met Townes, I believe that was back in your Austin Pickers days.
Back in Austin Pickers days. I'd just gotten out of the Army. It was 1982. And I went back to college, and the college had a TV station and a PBS studios and equipment I could check out. So I started a program called Austin Pickers, and it started out as a program all the Austin cats that couldn't get on Austin city limits, like Jerry Jeff Walker and Townes VanZandt, and they weren't quite big enough yet. And I did 13 programs and did 2 programs with the great Townes VanZandt, a remarkable man.
What are we going to start with? And who are some of the artists that we're going to be hearing in the show today?
Well, we'll be hearing from Townes VanZandt and Steve Earle, Guy Clark, Jimmy Dale Gilmore, Willie Nelson, Billy Joe Shaver, Chris Christopherson. These were all guys that hung out, the Texas musicians, the Austin musicians, and they all knew Townes and they loved him. A good place to start is probably my favorite Townes VanZandt song. It's called "To Live to Fly," and it's from the brand new Townes VanZandt album called "A Far Cry from Dead." It's on Arista Records.
Won't say I love you, babe. Won't say I need you, babe. But I'm gonna get you, babe, and I will not do you wrong. Living's mostly wasting time. I waste my share of mine, but it never feels too good, so let's don't take too long. For you're soft as glass, and I'm a gentle man. We got the sky to talk about and the world to lie on. Well, days up and down they come, like rain on a conga drum. Forget most, remember some, oh, but don't turn none away. Everything is not enough, nothing is too much to bear. Where you've been is good and gone, all you keep is the getting there. But to live's to fly, all low and high. So shake the dust off of your wings and the sleep out of your eyes. Goodbye to all my friends, it's time to go again. Think all the poetry and the picking down the line. I miss the system here, the bottom's low and the treble's clear. But it don't pay to think too much on things you leave behind. Well, I may be gone, but it won't be long. I'll be bringing back the melody and the rhythm that I find. We all got holes to fill. Them holes are all that's real. Some fall on you like a storm, sometimes you dig your own. The choice is yours to make, time is yours to take. Some dive into the sea, some toil upon the stone. But to live's to fly, low and high. So shake the dust off of your wings and the sleep out of your eyes. Oh, shake the dust off of your wings and the tears out of your eyes.
To Lives to Fly. When was that written, do you think?
Oh, God. Townes wrote that over 20 years ago. A lot of these songs on the new album, there are 2 new songs. And Townes was known for redoing all of his favorite songs over and over again. And no 2 versions were the same. There's just over 25 CDs and records in his catalog, and you'll see a lot of live stuff, and a lot of those he's rehashed and redone the old songs.
Well, Ed, how old was he when you first met him and started working with him and his music?
Townes was 83, so he was in his mid-30s, and I met him at his house in Austin, and I was invited over there. Met Townes VanZandt and another great songwriter named Blaze Foley, and Townes, I met Janine VanZandt, his wife at that time, and we went in the backyard. Townes had just finished a video for Poncho and Lefty, and Merle and Willie had just had a big hit with it, and this was just a couple years after Emmylou had a great hit with If I Needed You. And so he was living off these songs, had a nice house in Austin, and we just kicked back in his patio in his backyard, and he told us stories about the old days and about the songs, and picked with his wooden guitar, and we had some great tunes, and I got it all on video.
Ooh. So you have some things to say, I think, about this album, A Far Cry from Dead. Tell us about it.
Townes died on New Year's Day, 1997, and right before he died, he handed Janine 2 or 3 DAT tapes, and he said, "You're going to need these." Townes knew he didn't have long to live, and after Townes died, she just put the tapes in a box and let them sit, and a couple years later, she invited a producer over to her house for Thanksgiving dinner, a guy named Eric Paul, who had worked with Willie Nelson and all the outlaw guys from Austin and Nashville, Waylon Jennings and that group. Superb record producer. And played these tapes and said, "You think we can do anything with these?" And he said, "You bet." It was a project made for him. Project from heaven. And a lot of the tapes, it was just Townes, him and guitar. Some of the songs, he hadn't even put guitar. He hadn't even put music to them. All he was doing was reading poetry off a piece of paper. And that's how the album was put together. Eric got some of the best, not just Nashville musicians, but some of the world's finest musicians. Larry Keinkel, the guy from the keyboard player from Bread, was with Bread for years, and that's one name that comes to mind. And Charlie McCoy on harmonica, a bunch of folks, and basically created this CD around.
So they added the tracks to his solo tracks.
Exactly, and Janine VanZandt.
What a tribute!
Yeah, yeah. And Townes had never been on a major label. He'd been on Tomato Records and Sugar Hill, which is not quite a major label, but it's a lot of folk music and a lot of this type of music is on that. But he'd never been on a major. And as soon as Eric started working with these, the word went around Music Row and it went around Nashville that there was a real winner here. And Janine actually got to pick. They had, I guess, I understand, a bidding war over these tapes, and finally they settled with Arista Records, and they put a big push behind it in 1999, And I went back out to Austin in June, and I was there for the 2 weeks. I was there the day it was released. And what they call Townes Central, which is the Townes called his house the Ponderosa. And when you first walk up to it, it looks like the front porch of the Ponderosa. And you walk into this house, and it's all Townes. There's pictures of Townes and family portraits, and his ashes are sitting up on the cabinet, which contains remarkable pictures. Janine keeps everything. But I got to be there for the 2 weeks that the album was released and got to watch the facts, and the figures came in from the record label, and it was a really neat experience.
Let's hear something else from this city.
This is, the next cut is, it's an eerie cut. Townes had a lot of problems throughout his life. He had been institutionalized on more than a few occasions. And this is a cut called Sanitarium Blues. And the second cut you're going to hear is the cut off the album A Far Cry from Dead. The first is from the master dat that Townes handed Janine, and this is Sanitarium Blues spoken word. But if you don't know who Townes VanZandt is or what he's all about, besides the songs he wrote, Poncho and Lefty and If I Needed You, listen to this song very carefully. This was Townes VanZandt in his final days. This is Sanitarium Blues.
Okay, let's try it. The Sanitarium Blues. The folks, they just can't take no more. Throw you in the back seat, slam the door. No stopping us down the road you go. Got no time to lose. Gigantic one-way gate ahead. You're thinking, man, I'd as soon be dead. They decided to give you life instead. The Sanitarium Blues. Big old nurse, all dressed in white, slaps you on a table in the middle of the night. Then he straps you down real tight. You're wondering, what'd I do? They hose you down, make sure you're clean, wrap you up in hospital green, shoot you full of Thorazine, the Sanitarium Blues. Could be TB, maybe a tumor, eavesdropping on the doctors, listening to the rumors. Can't see your friends, hear the hum of the wheels. Hey, my man, you know how it feels? Like the Sanitarium Blues. Then upon some sunlit day, they figure there's no need for you to stay. They're pretty sure you can't be cured, so they send you on your merry way. You hit the pavement, hang around, nobody's on the outside to be found. You're just trying to stay above the ground. You start to thinking, what's the use? The Sanitarium Blues.
Sanitarium Blues from A Far Cry from Dead. That was the spoken word. That's the tape that Townes handed to Janine. And those are the vocals from the song you're about to hear, Sanitarium Blues. And this is what Eric, Paul, and Janine did with it.
Now, that little guitar riff there, was Townes trying to find a melody to go with it?
He had the words down, and that was him right before he died. That was he spent an hour or so trying to get a medley down. Couldn't quite get the medley down, but he included it on the tape and said, maybe you can work from this. And that's what Eric and Janine used as the basics of this song.
Folks, they just can't take no more. Throw you in the back seat, slam the door. stopping us down the road you go. Got no time to lose. Gigantic one-way gate ahead. You're thinking, man, I'd as soon be dead. They decided to give you life instead. The sanitarium blues. The old nurse, all dressed in white, slaps you on a table in the middle of the night. Then he straps you down real tight. You're wondering, what'd I do? They hose you down, make sure you're clean. Wrap you up in hospital green. Shoot you full of Thorazine. The sanitarium blues. Could be TB, maybe a tumor. Eavesdropping on the doctors, listening to the rumors. See your friends, hear the hum of the wheels. Hey, my man, you know how it feels? Like the sanitarium blues. Then upon some sunlit day, they figure there's no need for you to stay. They're pretty sure you can't be cured, so they send you on your merry way. You hit the pavement, hang around, nobody's on the outside to be found. You're just trying to stay above the ground. You start to thinking, what's the use? The sanitarium blues. The sanitarium blues.
Our guest, Ed Heffelfinger, has gotten on the phone with Janine VanZandt, wife of the late Townes VanZandt, to talk about the new CD.
Hi, Janine. This is Ed. We're out in California. I'm sitting here explaining to Lorraine and her audience all about A Far Cry from Dead, and I'm saying, why in the hell am I doing this? Let's get Janine VanZandt, Townes' widow, on the phone, and you can explain, because you're the executive producer. Tell us about A Far Cry from Dead.
Well, Far Cry from Dead was, I discovered some tapes that Townes had given me. I remember exactly when he handed them to me. He used to go next door. The guy that lived next door to us had a little demo studio in his basement, and Townes would go over there and have coffee with him in the morning, and over months and a couple of years, he had laid down 21 of some of his best songs, and I remember him coming over and back to the house and handing me the tapes and going, here, babe, put these away. I think there's some good stuff on there. Put them somewhere safe. And I put them away, and I never had a DAT player, so I never heard what was on them. And it was Thanksgiving after he died, and I invited our friend Eric Paul, who had worked with him down at Pedernales Willie Nelson studio before, and asked him to come out to Thanksgiving dinner and hear some tapes and help me copy them. I was mainly interested in, preserving them and copying them. And So he came over and hooked up my machines for me, and we had dinner, and we put them on, and we were just flabbergasted by the quality of Townes' voice and guitar playing. And I mean, he was in a really good place in his life when he made those recordings, and he was healthy and you know, not partaking of you know, things that harmed him. But they're some of the best recordings that he ever made, and I asked Eric, I said, well, you think we can make records out of this? And he's like, boy, can we ever? These are incredible. So it was probably another 6 months or 8 months till I was just having a moment with Townes from the other side where he just kind of spoke to me and said, it's time for you to make that record. And I just immediately reached for the phone and called Eric Paul and said, Eric, it's time. And I took some stock to the bank and got the money, and 10 days later we were in the studio recording. And it was just a really magical experience. It just felt, Townes' presence was just so there, everybody felt it, and it was done with a lot of love and respect. And I think Townes would like the result. I think it turned out great.
Well, I played for everybody Sanitarium Blues, the spoken word from the DAT that Townes gave you, and then we did Sanitarium Blues off the CD. What's your favorite cut on the CD?
Well, that would have to be Sanitarium Blues. I love that song. I thought, oh, that's the single, but you know, record companies are a little skittish when you're talking about people in mental facilities, but Townes really, really wanted that song out, and you can hear from the spoken word that, I mean, that's all we had to work with, and I knew how badly he wanted that song out. So Eric Paul was just a genius, you know, when he put that together, and musicians, Townes had hummed a little piece of the melody after he recorded it. He was laying it down for Steve Shelley of Sonic Youth. He was going to record a record for Geffen. And I remember I was in the studio when he laid that down, and he said, well, I just want to put this down. I want you guys to, you know, hear how it goes, and, you know, you guys can put something really cool behind it. And he strummed and hummed this little melody afterwards, and Michael Spriggs, who played a lot of acoustic guitar on the album, went up and did a chart from that little piece of melody that Townes did, and the band just really, that's the one the one song. Most of the other songs, the band members are laying down their tracks one person at a time, and it's woven together like a blanket, you know. And they went in there and just had a ball laying down those tracks, and I couldn't believe it. It just came together, and when Eric flew in the words, it was like first take. He just instinctively just, you know, pushed that button right exactly the right moment, and I think Townes would just be so pleased with the results.
All right. And, you know, I know that one of your favorite songs on the album is the other new song, Squash. And it's a great song. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that song, Janine?
Well, Townes had a tendency to, when there was downtime in the studio, when he was in there recording, he would just make up a song on the spot. I call them made-up-on-the-spot songs. And Niles River Blue off of the album No Deeper Blue is one of those, and German Mustard. I can't remember right offhand which one that's on, but he was in the studio with Niles Clement, Jack Clement's son, and he said, hey, Niles, give me a vegetable. And he, you know, Niles goes, well, how about squash, Townes? And Townes just starts rolling into squash, and did it. He only sang it once. It was never sung again, and the tape was rolling, and I'd completely forgotten about it. And when we were going through tapes looking for songs for this record, I ran across Squash, and I said, you know, I'd really like to end this record on a humorous note, just because he was such a funny man. I mean, his songs are so dark, but he had another side to him that was just hilarious, and him taking squash and turning it into a song about roadkill, and was just so Townes. And we brought in just friends like me and my mom and our son Will, and I brought in a little group of children and got to direct them, okay, squash now. and on, like, the third squash, you can hear Katie Bell Van Zandt, Townes' little princess, and you can hear her little voice ringing out real strong on that verse, and I thought, Townes would love that. So, I just really wanted to show his sense of humor and his talent for making stuff up on the spot. It just kind of was an incredible little talent of his. So I really felt like we should put that in there, and I'm glad we did.
Headed from El Paso, riding down the highway. Look out my window, what do I see? Some armadillo done gone crazy, flew in front of a semi. Man, looks like squash to me. Thinking about my baby, living down in Houston. Wonder if that squash is armadillo too. Guess I'll stop in Greenland, have me some old veggies. This highway will do that to you. I'm thinking squash on the highway. Coyote and armadillo, possum too. I'm talking squash out on the highway. Vitamin D and A and B complex too.
I'm talking squash.
Domestic animals,
Squash.
occasional cat.
Squash.
In the winter's frozen food.
Squash. I'm talking squash.
Winter kill.
Out on the highway.
Summer too. I'm talking squash. Vitamin A, B1, 2. I'm talking squash.
Squash.
Out on the highway. If you promise to do your part, I'll do mine too.
And we'll do a couple of more of those little on-the-spot songs. Niles River Blues, and what's the other ones, Ed?
German Mustard.
On the banks of the Niles, I courted my love. I walked with her soft as a morning dove. I loved her true, I swear I still do. Now she's gone without me. I walk by the banks and give the Lord thanks that I had the chance to court her. I don't know why he flew her away. I don't know why I'm left here. The Niles runs cold and clear as my tears. I'll never forget, I'll never regret those days on the beautiful Niles. Was Diane, her beautiful hands were soft as the pearls in the water. I looked in her eyes, they were blue as the skies. And now I've gone and left her. I'll follow her down the way to the river, follow beautiful banks of the Niles. Someday soon, neath the light of the moon, when the sun and the rain shine together, I'll meet her down where the waters flow and continue to flow forever. Down on the banks of the beautiful Niles, I wonder, what can I be thinking? Down on the banks of that beautiful river, I wonder, look for her forever. I wonder, look for her forever. Why don't you play a song and I'll sing? Oh, my baby, come walking, walking nice and slow. Like a moe. My baby, come nice and slow. Where are these men at? Like a son of a bitch. Then they turn around, they smile at you, babe, just like they didn't know. They pump that bad blood in you, just like a fireman shooting dogs. Yeah, firemen don't carry no guns, everybody knows. Pump that bad, just like a fireman shooting dog. Keep low when the shooting starts. To a guitar, come with it. My baby say you lonesome. I say, baby, you don't know what it means. Nah, no. Just me and some of my friends. My baby say you lonesome. I have a little drink. I say, baby, you don't know what it means. Man. That German mustard between your jeans.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how Townes wrote his songs. What kind of mood he had to be in, or did he have certain rituals he went through, or could he do it anywhere, anytime? Maybe you could share a little bit about what inspired all those many, many great songs.
Well, Townes wrote most of his masterpieces before he was 30 years old. I mean, that's one of the incredible things about him was how young he was to write such, spiritually deep music. But he'd always say, if you really want to write, you have to be alone. And he did a lot of his writing late at night in hotel rooms, and he kind of would go to bed early, and then he'd get up in the middle of the night and kind of kick around when everybody was asleep, and he'd write then. And he was very secretive about his songs. He wouldn't show them to anybody until he felt they were completely finished, and then he might ask me, do you like this tempo or that tempo, or just little stuff like that. But when nobody ever saw his songs till he thought they were finished, and if he didn't think it was a great song, he'd throw it away. And Harold Eggers, his road manager, used to make him so mad because he'd go, "You're throwing away songs," and he'd pull them out of the trash, and Townes just put that back in there. And and a lot of his songs, he said, just fell out of the sky, or that they would hit him in the top of the head like a bolt of lightning and shoot out his right arm through his pen, and he would just write them as fast as he could. Like Mr. Mud and Mr. Gold is just an intricate song about, card game, poker game. And he wrote that. He said his arm ached so bad when he was done. It used a whole legal pad, and his arm was just, numb for a day after writing that song. So a lot of them he called sky songs that just, he said, God touched me on the shoulder and told me to write these songs, son, and so I did. So it really was a gift.
Well, the wicked king of clubs awoke. It was to his queen he turned. His lips were laughing as they spoke. His eyes like bullets burned. The sun's upon a gambling day. His queen smiled low and blissfully. Let's make some wretched fool to pay. And plain it was she did agree. He sent his deuce down into diamond, his four to heart, his trade a spade. Three kings with their legions come, and preparations soon were made. They voted Club the day's commander, give him an army, face, and number, all but the outlaw jack of diamonds and the aces in the sky. Well, he give his sevens first instructions, spirit me a game of stud, stakes unscarred by limitation between a man named Gold and a man named Mud. Club filled Gold with greedy vapors till his long green eyes did glow. Mud was left with the sighs and trembles watching his hard-earned money go. Flushes fell on Gold like water, tens they paired and paired again. But the aces only flew through heaven, and the diamond jack called no man friend. The diamond queen saw Mud's ordeal, began to think of her long-lost son, fell to her knees with a mother's mercy, prayed to the angels every one. The diamond queen, she prayed and prayed, and the diamond angel filled Mud's hole. The wicked king of clubs himself fell face down in front of Gold. Three kings come to Club's command, but the angels from the sky did ride. Three kings up on the streets of Gold, three fireballs on the muddy side. Well, the Club queen heard her husband's call, Lord, that queen of diamonds' joy, when the outlaw in the heavenly hall turned out to be her wandering boy. And Mud he checked and Gold bet all. Mud he raised and Gold did call. And a smile just melted off his face when Mud turned over that diamond ace. Here's what this story's told. You feel like Mud, you'll end up Gold. Feel like lost, you'll end up found. So amigo, lay them razors down. Thanks, everyone.
Can you tell us, Janine, a little bit about the way Townes inspired many other songwriters and what's really happened since his death with the tributes and the recordings other people are doing of his songs? It's really quite extraordinary tribute, I think, to his work.
Well, yeah, there have been. I was just noticing the other day that the list of songs that are written about Townes is growing longer every day, and that's something that I don't think any of us thought about, that people would be not just recording his songs, but writing songs about him and carrying on the legend. But Lyle Lovett did 4 of his songs on Step Inside This House, which I thought was, his renditions are just gorgeous. Highway kind, just sends a chill down my spine. It's so beautiful. But he did those, and the Cowboy Junkies took one of his last songs and wrote Blue Guitar and as a tribute to him, and it's just getting bigger and bigger every day, and a lot of people send me tapes that are not stars, that are just regular people that play guitar, and I made this in my living room, and just beautiful songs about Townes. It's really touching.
Okay, Janine, we're going to take a moment here and play a tribute, one of my favorite tributes. I got this in the mail recently. This is a tape that was recorded last year in London by one of Townes' best buddies. This is Steve Earle.
On January 1st, we lost the best songwriter in the world, as far as I'm concerned. His name was Townes VanZandt. Now, I'm kind of semi-famous back home for having said once that Townes was the best songwriter in the world, and that I'd stand on Bob Dylan's coffee table in my cowboy boots and say that. Townes, when I said that, his publicist called me because he had a record coming out, and they wanted a quote put on a sticker on the record. And so I told him that. I got a big mouth. And Townes, I ran into him about 6 months later. He says, "Man, it really was nice what you said, and I appreciate it and everything, but I've seen Bob Dylan's Bodyguards, and I don't think it's a very good idea." There was a point in time when I met Townes, he was the purest form of folk singer I ever saw. He didn't live anywhere. He didn't live anywhere for 8 years. And he was sort of in the middle of that period when we met. I was about 17 years old. And, had a pretty profound effect on me at that age. He was a really, really good influence and a really, really bad influence sometimes. But he, at one point, decided he was going to settle down. I'd been living in a cabin in Williamson County in Tennessee, and I was going to go to Mexico for a little while. So I let him have the house I'd been living in, but I retained driveway rights, which meant that I could park my truck there whenever I came to Nashville. It was San Miguel Allende in central Mexico to Nashville. It's kind of a long commute, but it worked for me at that point in my life. And I was up there, my truck parked in the driveway, in about 77 or 78, I guess. And Townes became concerned that somehow my education had been neglected because he discovered that I hadn't read a book called Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, which is an incredible book by D. Brown about what my government did to Native Americans. It was the first really honest book about that. So Townes dug and found his copy, and he gave me that and a copy of War and Peace and told me to go read them. And then he hid the keys to my truck, so I couldn't leave. So I did some reading, and I came back, and he asked me what I thought about Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, and I told him that I thought it was great. And he said, "Well, what about War and Peace?" And I said, "Well, it's kind of long, but it was kind of cool." And then he kept asking questions about War and Peace. And it finally dawned on me after about a half an hour of being interrogated that Townes had never read War and Peace. His plan was he was going to get me to read it and then tell him about it. But he was my friend. He was my teacher. I named my oldest son after him, and he was the best I ever saw. And this is a Townes VanZandt song. Ride blue and high and free, she leads you down to misery. Leave you low come time to go, alone and low as low can be. If I had a nickel to find a game, if I won $1, I'd make it rain. If it ain't an ocean, I'd drink it dry, or lay me down dissatisfied. Legs to walk and thoughts to fly, eyes to laugh and lips to cry, a restless tongue to classify, heart born to grow and grown to die. So tell my baby I said so long, tell my mother I done no wrong, tell my brother watches on, I'll tell my friends to mourn me now. Chained upon the face of time, feeling full of foolish rhyme. Ain't no dark till something shines, I'm bound to leave this dark behind. So ride the blue wind high and free, she leads you down to misery, leave you low come time to go, alone and low as low can be. See you when I get there, Maestro.
And Janine, I'm still flying up in the clouds. I was telling Lorraine I just got back from Nashville, and a couple of weeks ago on March 8th, you held at the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville. You got a bunch of Townes' friends together and had Townes Fest. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I've been working on an idea that I had to start a songwriting camp for children. And I wanted to call it the Townes VanZandt Hook, Line, and Sinker Fishing and Songwriting Camp. And, it's probably a little more than I can chew all by myself, so I went to an established music school here in Nashville, the W.O. Smith Music School, that gives children music lessons for 50 cents. And it's a really good thing. Townes loved nature, and he loved children probably more than anything, along with music, and hopefully me. and I just felt like something that had to do with kids are just exposed to so many rough things in this life that I thought that getting them back to nature and letting them know that that you can go to a quiet place, and if you combine fishing and songwriting, what a great combination. Getting quiet with nature and thinking while you're fishing, write a song. And so we put together a concert at the Ryman to raise money for the school, for seed money for this project. And Willie Nelson and Chris Christopherson and Joan Mosser, who did a whole tribute album to Townes a year before he died called Around Townes, which I'm also executive producer on, was there. And Eric Anderson, his old pal, who has a new album out with 4 co-written Townes songs that they wrote in late 80s that were lost for many years, and they recently resurfaced, and he's got them on his new album called You Can't Relive the Past. And so we had him, and it was fun. Boy, I tell you what, my mom sure was happy to meet Chris. I kept saying, somebody get the crowbar and get Mom off Chris. It was a big thrill for us girls, and just what a wonderful man. And Willie came and played for hours, it seems like, and it was just a wonderful event. And a lot of good spirits there, and all those people coming out to honor Townes was wonderful for our family.
I know, Janine. It was one of the most remarkable events I've ever been privileged to be at. Here's something you haven't heard, Janine. This is, I burned a CD from the audio from our video. This is Willie Nelson, Billy Joe Shaver, and Chris Christopherson, Pancho and Lefty. And first, Chris Christopherson's tearful tribute to Townes VanZandt. You're going to love this, Janine.
Thank you, boys. It is really an honor to be here tonight honoring Townes VanZandt in the Ryman with all these wonderful musicians. And I used to come here every Saturday night. Mr. Norris, the cop back there, would let me in, and I'd stand in those wings and breathe the air that Hank Williams breathed. This is a very emotional experience for me. Mickey Newberry told me that Townes VanZandt was the best songwriter in the world. And since this included me and a lot of others that I admired, I thought that was pretty strong stuff. And Bob Dylan said the same thing.
Thank you all very much. One of the reasons we're here tonight is to do a tribute to our pal Townes VanZandt. And we'll do one to Old Haggard at the same time. We'd like to do Pancho and Lefty for y'all. Living on the road, my friend, what's gonna keep you free and clean? Now you wear your skin like iron, and your breath as hard as kerosene. And I'm your mama's only boy, but her favorite one it seemed. Well, she began to cry when you said goodbye, and sank into your dreams. Pancho was a bandit boy. His horse was fast as polished steel. He wore his gun outside his pants for all the honest world to feel. Pancho met his match, you know, in the deserts down in Mexico. Nobody heard his dying word. Oh, but that's the way it goes. Say could have had him any day. We only let him slip away out of kindness, I suppose. Lefty, he can't sing the blues all night long like he used to. The dust that Pancho bit down south ended up and left his mouth. Day they laid poor Pancho low, Lefty split for Ohio, but where he got the bread to go, there ain't nobody knows. All the federalists say could have had him any day. We only let him go so long out of kindness, I suppose.
Poets tell how Pancho fell. Lefty's living in a cheap hotel. The desert's quiet and Cleveland's cold, so the story ends, we're told. And Pancho needs your prayers, it's true. Save a few for Lefty too. He only did what he had to do. And now he's grown know.
All the federalists say could have had him any day. We only let him slip away. Out of kindness, I suppose. A few great federalists say could have had him any day. We only let him go so long. Out of kindness, I suppose.
Anymore. Your pride's just too demanding. You built your tower strong and tall. Can't you see it's got to fall someday? The end is coming soon, it's plain. A warm bed just ain't worth the pain. And I will go and you'll remain with the bitterness we tasted. A mother's breast, a newborn child, poet tears and a drunken smile. But I can't help thinking all the while that meaning won't be wasted. You built your tower strong and tall. Can't you see it's got to fall someday? Thank you. Thanks.
I was curious which songs affected people the most. Are there certain ones that just really impacted people's lives that you can share with?
Well, I think there's so many of them that do that it'd be hard to pick one. You know, like I have a mailing list and about Townes mailing list, and periodically we go through our "What's your favorite Townes song today?" because everybody, it's like this week my favorite is this one, or it's just you can't pick one that's the best or the most effective, or you just can't because they're all so good.
Janine, thanks so much for taking time to share some of your stories, experiences, and the life of your husband, Townes VanZandt. We really appreciate you sharing these things with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and the more people that get to hear about Townes, the better I like it. Thank you.
Ed, I really want to thank you for making that call to Janine. Ed Heffelfinger is here. He's a video producer known for a long time up in the Reading area. Helped on many projects over many, many years. Came from a tradition of recording some of those Texas outlaw folks over in Austin, the Austin Pickers and Singers. You're still Austin Pickers Productions, or
Austin Pickers Productions, and soon to be austinpickers.com. It's coming by the beginning of summer.
And there is Janine has a website for Townes, right?
Yeah, it's Townes VanZandt Central. It's at www.townesvanzandt.com. All one word.
TOWNESVANZANDT. .com.
And you can buy all of his CDs there, and T-shirts, posters, everything.
Isn't there a European CD that she sends out right now that's kind of a treat. It was like a bootleg that she got.
Yeah, there was
got the rights to.
There was this guy, and when I was back there in June, there was this guy that was selling "Rain on a Conga Drum," and he added a couple of tracks. It's a live album from Europe, recorded live in Berlin and Germany, and some guy had basically bootlegged it, and they got a cease and desist order, and the marshals went in and seized like 5,000 CDs and 5,000 cassettes.
Wow.
And it's just as good a quality. The cover's kind of funky. It's got a Xerox picture of Townes, and the one you're holding is the real one. So she's got all these copies, so I think she's still got this deal. Any CD or T-shirt or poster that you buy, you get Rain on a Conga Drum for free.
It says it was recorded in 1990 during Berlin Independence Days at the Quasimodo in Berlin. Mr. Mud and Mr. Gold, we heard earlier, was on this particular CD. If I Needed You, Buckskin Stallion Blues, Short-Haired Woman Blues, Ain't Leaving Your Love, the classic, of course, Poncho and Lefty, incredible. Dollar Bill Blues, Fraulein, the Shrimp Song, Blazes Blues, No Place to Fall, To Live Is to Fly, Lungs, Nothing, Tecumseh Valley, Dead Flowers, White Freightliner Blues, and the Catfish Song. And you know, something that Ed was sharing with me is that there are many, many recordings of many different songs, and each one is quite exquisite little gem. Each one is different.
They're all a little bit different. You know, a lot of people are used to hearing Townes VanZandt with just a guitar and a voice, or maybe a bass player and maybe percussion behind him. The last album that he did before he died was a very major production, very lush and full arrangements. It was No Deeper Blue. It's the same thing with the new album. And it caught a lot of people by surprise. A lot of the traditional folk people weren't really into it. It's kind of the same thing when Bob Dylan first picked up a guitar. The folkies didn't like it. When he first picked up an electric guitar, the folkies didn't like it. And it's kind of the same thing with Townes. You'll hear his songs that are just very basic, him in an acoustic guitar, and then others with a 10-piece band behind him.
But you think he really loved it when all those people joined in on his music?
Yeah, and right before Townes died, it was very important to him to reach a new audience. He was listening to groups out of Seattle like Mudhoney and the Cowboy Junkies from Canada, and Townes wanted to rock and roll. So this new album, A Far Cry from Dead, he would have loved. He would have loved. And it's accomplishing what Townes wanted to do. When I went out to Nashville in November working on this video, and Janine picked me up at the airport and drove me to Taco Bell, and we're driving through the drive-through window at Taco Bell, and there's this 16-year-old kid that says, "Mrs. VanZandt, I just got the new album and I love it." And bottom line is that's exactly what Townes wanted to do. Here's a 16-year-old kid that's really digging the music, and it's a whole new generation.
Do you know how the title was developed?
No, I don't.
There's an interesting
but
story
it's appropriate. We should have asked Janine about. Yeah, we should have asked Janine about that.
Next time you see her, ask her.
But it's
ask her for
perfect.
us.
It is. It's perfect. It's a perfect title for it.
You have a song another song off that one that we can play?
Yeah, Townes wrote a lot of love songs, and Janine used to, they'd sit there and listen to this or that, and he's, who's that song about, Townes? Oh, of course, it's about you, Janine. It's about you, sweetheart. And she'd say, well, wait a minute, how can that, you wrote that 5 years before you ever knew me. Well, I knew I was going to know you, and he give her these lines. There's a great song on A Far Cry from Dead called "Ain't Leaving Your Love," and the day after Katie Bell was born. No. It was the day after Will was born. Will just turned 17, so 17 years ago, the day after Will was born, she brought Will home, and Townes wrote this song just for her, and this is called "Ain't Leaving Your Love."
Mr. Gator, he's a sliding down about. Mr. Buzzard, he's a gliding through the air. Mr. Turtle, he's a hitting the highway. Well, I ain't going nowhere, I ain't leaving your love. Ain't leaving your love, babe. Not for heaven above, babe. I ain't leaving your love. Well, a rich man got him an airplane, cruising through the traffic jam. Well, a poor man got him a Chevrolet. I'm staying right where I am. I ain't leaving your love. Ain't leaving your love, babe. Not for heaven above, babe. I ain't leaving your love. Hannibal, he was a mountain man. Cleopatra did her dancing down the Nile. Lucky Linda made it all the way to Cape Perry. I'm staying right here while I ain't leaving your love. I ain't leaving your love, babe. Not for heaven above, babe. I ain't leaving your love. Sliding down a bow. Mr. Buzzard, he's a gliding through the air. Mr. Turtle, he's a hitting the highway. I ain't going nowhere, I ain't leaving your love, babe. I ain't leaving your love, babe. Not for heaven above, babe. I ain't leaving your love. I ain't leaving your love, babe. I ain't leaving your love, babe. Not for heaven above, babe. I ain't leaving your love. I ain't leaving your love.
Oh, that's quite fine. Maybe we should remind people how this CD was put together in case they didn't hear the first part of the show, Ed.
Right before Townes passed away, New Year's Day, 1997, he gave these tapes to Janine VanZandt, his widow, his wife at the time. And all it was basic tracks, him on guitar or him reading poetry from a piece of paper. He told Janine, you're going to need these. And then shortly, a year or two after his death, she got a producer, Eric Paul, and here it is. It's he put a band behind it, took the basic tracks and redid them with full instrumentation, full arrangements. And it's my favorite Townes VanZandt album.
My gosh, this photograph on the back.
Yeah, I know.
And the one on the front cover, he looks much younger. If you look at the one in the back, he looks very weathered.
You know, when I first went to the VanZandt house last June, I got a hold of Janine. I had not seen Janine since 1983, and I got on the internet last May, and I got some of my video that I'd done at Townes back in the early 80s, and I did some stuff with it, and I sent it to her email, and she sent me an email back, said, who are you? And I reminded her, and she said, well, if I sent you a ticket out to Nashville, would you come on out? And I went out in June for the first time. That's when we discussed this video project and decided we were going to do it. You walk into the Ponderosa, which is the VanZandt house, and it is full of memorabilia, pictures of Townes. His ashes are up on the cupboard, and Townes is in that house. I spent 2 weeks there then, and then last November I spent 2 or 3 weeks at the house. And his spirit walks in that place, and he plays little tricks on Janine and his friends and her friends, and it's really quite amazing. But it's full of Townes VanZandt.
A couple of things that I'm noticing, pretty amazing. The thanks, Janine's thanks on the CD. First and foremost, God for bringing down to this earth his poet servant, Townes VanZandt, and blessing him with a gift so awesome. And for letting me find in Townes my best friend, teacher, and soulmate. my mother, Mary Locke Danforth, for stepping into my mother's shoes and taking over for me with Townes and my children. Will and Katie Bell for 2 solid months while we made this record. Eric Paul for his keen ear, incredible talent, and dedication to the cause. All the musicians for putting their hearts and souls into every note, and the folks at Arista Austin for getting it. Tell us a little bit about your video project.
It's called Townes VanZandt, A Celebration in Words and Music. And we have some basic video tracks, concert video and interview video that I did with Townes back in 83 and 84. And then right after Townes died, 3 or 4 months after he died, Janine put on a tribute to Townes at the Bottom Line in New York City. And she recorded that with multiple cameras and ADAT. I mean, done first class. It looks and sounds wonderful. With Joe Ely and Jimmy Dale Gilmore and Steve Earle and Joan L. Mosser and David Olney, bunches of his friends. We have that basic video. And I decided right off the bat that I didn't want to do a biography of Townes because you can't do any better than what he's already left us in all of his records and all of his music. They are very autobiographical, and there's not much I can do about that. Everybody that knows Townes VanZandt's music and knows of him knows about his pain and the hell that he went through in his life, but very few people know about the other side. He was quite the joker. He was a very funny man, very warm, great man. He used to tell a lot of jokes in his concerts. Most of his albums, they got edited out. If you can find the European version of Live at the Old Quarter in Houston, it's a 2 CD set, and they haven't edited the funny stuff out. And it's a comedy album.
So what's the joke you made about his jokes?
He used to say that my songs are so sad. If I didn't tell these corny little jokes in concert by the end of the show, people would be slitting their wrists. And he had this wonderful side. Janine showed me some home video of him that was taken in Europe. This professional cinematographer followed him around, and it looks like a Hard Day's Night. It's funny as can be, and people haven't seen that. And talking with his buddies and his friends, you know, I hear all those drug stories and all the alcohol stories and all that, but there are some funny things and some of the jokes and tricks that he played on people. And that's what I'm hoping to show through this. I want to show Townes to a new audience. And my guide for this pretty much is he has a wonderful daughter that's 9 years old, Katie Bell. He wrote Katie Bell Blues for. And I said to Janine, if I can produce a video that in 20 years or so, Katie Bell can show to her kids and say, this is what your grandpa was all about. That's what I want to make. And I don't want to, you know, I don't care about the drugs and all that stuff. I just want to show the lightheartedness and the wonderful side of this man.
The spirit.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of the musicians on this, Michael Spriggs on acoustic guitar, 12-string guitar, dobro, Tipple, F-hole acoustic guitar, Craig Cramp on drums, triangle, angel bells, cymbals, tambourines, and himself. Bob Ray, bass guitar, Richard Bennett on the tremolo, Ruckenbacher, Dan Electro, Spanish, and Gretsch guitars. Larry Knechtel, is that how you say it?
Yeah, that's the guy from Brad. And Richard Bennett co-produced and played guitar on Bob Dylan albums and on a lot of Steve Earle stuff. Great guitarist and producer.
So Larry, he's a keyboardist.
He's a keyboard. Used to all those great Baby I'm a Want You and all those great Bread songs. That's him on keyboards, yeah.
Russ Hicks, steel guitar. Kenny Malone, drums, The Beast, African Pea Pods, Locust Pods, Kunga, Spurs, Pots and Pans, Bubble Wrap, Shaker, Conga, and Keyboardine. Charlie McCoy on harmonica and vibes, Jim Calvin on the banjo, Susie Monick on the squeeze box. Quite a variety. All that interwoven into this original mix that was done at a great name, recorded at the Tex Homa Music Group studio and Jack Clement's Cowboy Arms Hotel and Recording Spa in Nashville, Tennessee from 1989 to 1996.
Last time I was in Nashville, I did an interview with Eric, and he said that the day after they had Thanksgiving dinner, and he told Janine yes. He started making phone calls, and nobody told him no. As soon as he told people what this project was all about, people canceled other projects to come and work on this.
Let's hear another cut from this CD. The Snake. Let's hear this. What is it? Snakeville Blues?
Snake Mountain Blues.
Snake Mountain Blues.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Well, Mr. $10 man, let me tell where you're bound. Drink your green liquor, Lord, and you'll roll to the ground. But you come around here with your money in your hand, taste of my woman, or you die where you stand. Well, the Snake Mountain Blues, they got me down low. I could die in the morning, ain't no one would know. My woman come around, my body shit fine. Go down to Dundee, every time. Snake Mountain's gonna crumble, Lord, and fall from the sky. But that woman of mine stops telling her lies. If I die, Lord, she'd weep and she'd moan. Soon as I was buried, she forget I've been born. Love a black-skinned woman, she won't do you no wrong. Slow to start moaning, she don't moan for long. Let a yellow-headed woman bring you nothing but pain. Takes all you give her, or leaves only shame. Well, my daddy, Lord, he rides on a long, holy train. First winds of winter, I see him again. And his farewell to this yellow-headed misery I've known. Snake Mountain's calling, or calling me home. Well, the Snake Mountain Blues, they got me down low. I could die in the morning, ain't no one would know. My woman come around, my body should fine. Go down to Dundee, or have her time.
That was really great. When did you say this this was released?
June last year, June 99.
And how about women? Do you have many women that have recorded Townes VanZandt songs? Have you interviewed any for your special?
Jonelle Mosser, who is a wonderful blues artist in Nashville, did an album back in '96 that Janine produced, was the executive producer. It's called Around Towns. And Jonelle is, she's known in the South. I've discovered her kind of right after I moved to Nashville in 1994, and I remember telling my friends in California, you're going to hear about this lady. And she kind of retired. She had a family, a couple of kids, and she sings now and plays when she wants to. And she says, I don't want to mess around with that business. And this was the last album she did. And it's 13 Townes VanZandt songs, and it's called Around Towns. And the name of this song is No Place to Fall.
Well, Ed, that was such a tasty piece. I'm not surprised. Surprised there's not more women recording his songs.
Well, we were talking while that last song was playing, and I go like, duh. The first gold record that Townes put up on his wall was for "If I Needed You" with Emmylou Harris, and it was a duet with Don Williams. We don't have that CD
It's
here
on this
today.
one, though. It's on this one.
Yeah, Jonelle does a
Not
wonderful.
Emmylou's version.
No, but she does a wonderful version of "If I Needed You," and it's a duet with Delbert McClinton.
Well, Janelle has quite a wonderful voice.
Jonelle is just amazing, and a few years ago she did an album with Don Was and produced it, and Ringo Starr was on drums, and all these amazing performers. And the album's in the can, never been released, and she's just kind of semi-retired. She's raising a family and doesn't want to mess with the music business that much. She was one of the featured performers at Townes Fest, and she brought the house down. She's got an amazing voice, just an amazing lady.
She also has a Tower song, which we heard earlier on this CD. A song for Flying Shoes, All Your Young Servants, Nothing. St. John the Gambler, Lungs, You Are Not Needed Now, No Place to Fall, I'll Be Here in the Morning, Where I Lead Me, and Be Here to Love Me. This was released in 1996 on Winter Harvest. So I'm going to spell the name out here for you so you can see if you can catch this one. Jonell, Janelle Mosser, Mosser. This CD again is called Around Towns. And
you can buy it at www.townesvanzandt.com. Jonelle Mosser, yeah. It's available on the website and at Tower Records. And we don't have a tower here, so get on your website.
There's a tower in Chico.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. And, it's an amazing CD.
Okay, so let's hear If I Needed You, classic song.
With Delbert McClinton on duet.
If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me and ease my pain? If you needed me, I'd come to you. I'd swim the seas for to ease your pain.
In the night followed, the morning's born, and the morning shines with the lights of love. You will miss sunrise if you close your eyes. That would break my heart in two.
Ladies with me now, since I showed her how to lay her lily hand in mine. Loop and Lil agree, she's a sight to see, and a treasure for the poor to find.
If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me and ease my pain? If you needed me, I would come to you. I'd swim the seas for to ease your pain. I would swim the seas for to ease your pain.
That was really fabulous, quite incredible.
Oh, Jonelle Mosser is just a remarkable talent. Remarkable.
Now, what do we have here also? We have
Jimmy Dale Gilmore, One
the
Endless
new
Night.
one. That's a new CD, just came in.
Brand new. I have not heard it. I've heard about it. It's looks like his cover album, but he's got a Townes VanZandt song on here, No Lonesome Tune. And Jimmy Dale Gilmore, I knew Jimmy before he was Jimmy Dale. He was just playing Jimmy Gilmore. He was one of my Austin pickers. Shot video of him back in the early '80s, and he credits Townes VanZandt with a lot of his style and with his career. I did an interview with Joe Ely back in November, and he talks about meeting Townes VanZandt in Lubbock, Texas, years ago. Picked him up in his Volkswagen, and Townes was hitchhiking, and took him to a liquor store, and Townes said, "Thank you, and here's my new album." And he had the only possession that Townes had at the time was a backpack full of copies of his brand new album, Our Mother the Mountain. And Joe Ely took it and took it home and listened to it, and then called his new buddy, Jimmy Gilmore, and said, "Hey, you got to hear this." And came over, and if you listen to Jimmy Dale Gilmore and you listen to very early Townes VanZandt, like Our Mother the Mountain and earlier, Jimmy Dale sounds a lot like early Townes VanZandt. You can definitely see where he got his stylings from.
And the name of the song?
The name of the song is No Lonesome Tune.
Well, I ain't gonna sing no lonesome tune. Oh, babe, I'm coming soon. I cannot believe I stayed so long away. But a man must look around, and you're the sweetest thing I've found. Oh, your lost high rollers rolling home today. Well, my daddy said to me, "Son, it's hard as you will see to find someone upon whom to rely." And in the kitchen mama sneezed, and he grinned big as you please, said, "Bless you," and a tear come to his eye. Well, I did decide that very day that I would like to live that way. And now I know I've just been wasting time. It's with you that I should be, and if you feel the same about me, well, I'm headed home along the straightest line. So long away. But a man must look around, and you're the sweetest thing I've found. All your lost high rollers rolling home today. Yeah, your lost high rollers rolling home to stay.
Oh, that was great. We want to hear some, one more person we promised we'd play is Guy Clark. So we better play Guy Clark before the end of this hour, huh?
Guy Clark and Townes VanZandt were big buddies, and they go back many, many years. And Guy came out with a new album a few months ago called Cold Dog Soup. And it's hard to pick a song off of this, but Townes is all over this album. And Guy mentions Townes by name 3 or 4 times on this. But my favorite is Cold Dog Soup, and I don't know the whole story, but the term Cold Dog Soup is a local joke between Townes and Guy, and it's an awesome song.
Now William Butler Yeats and Jeans got up to play guitar and sing in some joint in Mission Beach last night. And at the door sat Tom Waits in a pork pie hat and silver skates, and he's juggling 3 collection plates. Jesus Christ. Townes VanZandt standing at the bar, skinning a Hollywood movie star, and he can't remember where he parked his car or to whom he lost the keys. But he's full of angst and hillbilly haiku. What's a poor Fort Worth boy to do? Go on, rhyme something for him, man. Show him how you really feel. There ain't no money in poetry, that's what sets the poet free. I've had all the freedom I can stand. You got your cold dog soup and rainbow pie, all it takes to get me by. Fool my belly till the day I die. Cold dog soup and rainbow pie. Ginsberg and Kerouac, shooting dice, playing Ramblin' Jacks, guitar with a cowboy painting pickguard on it. And they sat in the back and they drank for free, and they rhymed orange with Rosalie. Now there's a pride of lines to draw to. Oh, there ain't no money in poetry, that's what sets the poet free. And I've had all the freedom I can stand. It's cold dog soup and rainbow pie, all it takes to get me by. Fool my belly till the day I die. Cold dog soup and rainbow pie. There ain't no money in poetry, that's what sets the poet free. And I've had all the freedom I can stand. Cold dog soup and rainbow pie, all it takes to get me by. Fool my belly till the day I die. Cold dog soup and rainbow pie.
Oh, I really like that song.
That's a great CD. It really is.
That's really fun. So we don't have a lot of time left, Ed. My guest has been Ed Heffelfinger, and he's been working with the VanZandt family, putting together a video tribute to Townes, and there's been some musical tributes. He's been recording interviews with several people and sharing some things. We have decided to close this Townes VanZandt special with a couple of songs that weren't written by Townes, actually, that he did of other people's.
Townes was. I did an interview with Harold Eggers, who was produced Townes and managed him, and he says, make sure you let the people know that Townes was not only just a great songwriter, but he was also a great song stylist. And this is an album that Harold produced a few years back. It's called Road Songs, and they decided just to do cover tunes. And one of Townes' great friends is the great Bruce Springsteen, and this is a great song, Racing in the Streets.
I got a 69 Chevy with a 396. You lay heads in a hearse on the floor. She's a-waiting for me in the parking lot down by the 7-Eleven store. Me and my partner, Sonny, we built her straight out of scratch. Now we run her from town to town. Oh, we go for the money, no strings attached. We shut 'em up and then we shut 'em down. Oh, we take all the action we can get, and we cover all the northeast states. And when the strip shuts down, we run 'em in the streets, from the fire road to the interstate. Oh, tonight, the strip's just right. I'm gonna blow 'em all out of their seats. Summer's here and a time is right for racing in the streets. I met her on the strip 3 years ago in his Camaro with a dude from L.A. Well, I blew that Camaro off my back and I drove that little girl away. But now there's wrinkles all around my baby's eyes. She cries herself to sleep at night. She just sits on the porch of her daddy's house, says, babe, you make it home all right. Oh, tonight, the strip's just right. I'm gonna blow 'em off in my first heat. Summer's here and a time is right for racing in the streets. Well, some guys, they just give up living, start dying little by little, piece by piece. Some guys get off work, go home and wash up, go racing in the streets. So all you shut down strangers and hot rod angels rumbling through this promised land, my baby and me, we're gonna drive to the sea and wash these sins off our hands. Oh, tonight, the strip's just right. I'm gonna blow 'em all out of their seats. Summer's here and a time is right for racing in the streets.
Well, it's getting on to the end of the program here. We had Bruce Springsteen.
Racing in the streets. I like that better. I like that version better than I do Bruce's. I really do.
Well, we know you're an absolute Townes VanZandt fanatic, and we're thankful you are because you had all the CDs.
I want to thank Janine VanZandt for that. I went out there in June, and she said to me, how many CDs do you have? I said, I used to have most of the records, but I only got a couple of CDs. So she took me out to the warehouse, and I got everything by Townes. I mean, posters and T-shirts and videos, and so it's one of the great perks of this business.
Oh, absolutely wonderful. Well, I know this is a really exciting project for you to work on, and I'm sure it's sometimes difficult for not only you recording, but the people who are doing the interviews, missing him so much.
Yeah, it's been, it was unexpected, and it came suddenly, and people are still grieving. And there's a lot of people that they hold things close to their heart and their soul, and they don't want to talk. There's a lot of things they don't talk about.
You know what I'm so touched about is the idea for the camp for kids to go fishing and write songs. It's just such a fabulous idea.
It's
cool.
It's underprivileged children in Nashville. And it's kids that would, they're cutting out music out of the school programs, and these are kids that would never get exposed to music. And that's what this is all about. I think it's remarkable. And Townes is up in heaven right now just smiling down on Janine. he loves it. It's great.
Now let's play one last song from this CD that we were doing, the Townes VanZandt Road Songs.
Road songs, all cover songs. Yeah, this is, Janine got a nice surprise a few years back. She went out to her mailbox and she got a letter from either Universal Studios or Paramount Studios, and there was a check stapled to it. And it seems they made a movie called The Big Lombowski, And the ending of the movie and the ending credits has this great Rolling Stones song, Dead Flowers, done by Townes VanZandt. And it seems like an appropriate song to end this show.
Well, thanks, Ed, for joining us.
It's my pleasure,
we
Lorraine.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, now when you're sitting there in your silk upholstered chair, talking to some rich folks that you know, well, I hope you don't see me in my ragged company. All that you know, I could never be alone. Take me down, little Susie, take me down. I know you think you're the queen of the underground. Send me dead flowers every morning. Send me dead flowers by the mail. Send me dead flowers to my wedding, and I won't forget to put roses on your grave. Well, now when you're sitting back in your rose pink Cadillac, making bets on Kentucky Derby days, I'll be in my basement room with a needle and a spoon, and another girl to take my pain away. Take me down, little Susie, take me down. I know you think you're the queen of the underground. Send me dead flowers every morning. Send me dead flowers by the mail. Send me dead flowers to my wedding, and I won't forget to put roses on your grave. Susie, take me down. I know you think you're the queen of the underground. Send me dead flowers every morning.
And so ends a very, very good special from Lorraine Dechter and the good old-fashioned folk music show about the musician Townes VanZandt. It's a program that we'll hang on to and I think repeat sometime down the road. Such a good program.